Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Aloha Tuesday to each and every one of you. Welcome. What's up, Tyson? What's up? Aloha in the village. Special night, special time. We got a special guest tonight. Gary Cordery will be on, Governor of Hawaii candidate. So we're looking forward to a interesting discussion. As you all know, we have put out the call for any candidate running for office. They're welcome to come on to our show. I actually surprised that more people don't take us up on that. Um, we don't care parties here. We don't care what political party you're at or in or what. I think many of us are now starting to realize that it really isn't about the party. It's about the person and who you believe will represent you best. And so the call is still out. Primary election is what, a couple of weeks away, less than a month away, and people are still trying to figure out who they're gonna vote for. And ballots will be out in your mailboxes by the end of the month. So that gives us about a week or so before so many of us will start seeing the ballots. So anyway, again, appreciate you guys joining us on this special night. I know people probably tuned in at 7 or tuned in last night, and I try to post as many reminders on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn as possible. But I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult to get the word out um, many times. So appreciate you guys that are on tonight, and we are waiting for Gary to show up. He is going to be on his phone because he is actually at a or coming from a function, I believe on Oahu. So I know we're going to see a lot of new people tonight. I just hope that you guys get some good content, good information, as we always try to provide to all of you. And looking forward to the discussion. We will not have a show tomorrow night, Thursday night, and Friday night. I unfortunately have to go back to Queens for round two, have another procedure done, and that will be tomorrow morning. Patsy and I will fly out, so we'll be on Oahu. Hopefully, we'll be able to come home by Friday, but we will not have a show for the rest of the week. So um, we will come back on Monday night. Next Monday, we have Lieutenant Governor candidate Ikaika Anderson will be on, and then Wednesday we will have the doctors on to discuss the new numbers that are coming up next week, Wednesday. Eric is asking, where is Uncle Charlie? Uncle Charlie is working. Uncle Charlie is working, and poor guy is working hard. They are extremely short staffed and basically putting out fires every day. So, yeah, I can't wait to have him back on as well. I really want to get him on to play his guitar and sing some songs for us. I mean, I think we all want to see that. So, but yeah, he's. I just. I didn't speak to him. I called him. I left him a message this morning. He did call back. I got his voicemail. So he's doing fine. He's just extremely busy, extremely busy. And hey, how do you guys like Friday night show with Kimberly Hope? I thought that went really well. A lot of great comments, a lot of great messages. She's going to be on tomorrow night. She's a nominee in the Nahoku Hano Hano Awards there on Oahu tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. So tune in. I think it's going to be streaming on Hawaii News Now. I'm not sure what other platforms, but yeah, check it out. Wish her the best. I'm really hoping that she brings home a Nahoku Hano Hano award. That would be cool. And we'll have her back on the show to share with us her experiences while being there at that event. So aside from that, everything's going quite well. Um, quite well. Any questions? You guys got any questions? We definitely going to have a lot of questions tonight with Gary, and I'm hoping that he because he's going to be on his phone that he'll be able to chime in. Otherwise, it's going to be a long night for me. I'm gonna have to tell you jokes and stories and stuff like that. But uh, I you guys been watching the debates? I know there's like a mega debate. I think it's Thursday night. They're gonna have all the candidates like I've been saying for months now, we're at crossroads. Our state is at crossroads, and we the people have the ability to determine our future simply by voting. And I highly encourage every one of you and all your family and friends to make sure that you're registered, number one, and make sure you vote. They make it extremely easy here in Hawaii by mail in ballots. So you get it to your home. You circle the black dots, put it in the envelope, send it back, or drop it off. I drop mine off at the center, so I know my vote will get to where it needs to go. They'll have drop boxes throughout the island, throughout the state, actually, where you can physically drop your ballot in the boxes, so your vote will be counted. I mean, no disrespect with the United States Postal Service, but I think we've all had mail that never went where it should have gone. Oh, see, look, when you talk about the USPS, you get the bachi. Anyway, so yeah, you guys, it's so convenient. But I'm gonna tell you something, people. I hear a lot of complaints, grumbles. Everybody grumble, 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 grumble. We as political candidates have the ability to check out the poll books. We cannot see who votes for who, but we can see the poll books. These are the actual books that are at the polls that you got to sign when you check in. We can see who voted and didn't vote. And I will tell you, it's quite disappointing. A lot of the grumblers don't vote. So I'm telling you, folks, we're at crossroads. We can make a difference. We can vote for change, but it's going to take each and every single one of us to take that little effort to fill in the bubbles and turn in your ballot, and we can have a new Hawaii. So anyway, with that, Gary Cordery, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. There we go. How are you, my friend?
Aloha, Mel. I'm very well. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It looks like you're going from event to event like most politicians do.
We're actually in the middle of an event, and I stepped out of the event.
Oh, wow. Wow. Oh, my gosh. I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, we're just we're cruising with the people down here. We're actually, declaring what's hopeful for been looking forward to this call.
Well, okay, I tell you what, find a good spot where you have some good Wi-Fi. I'm showing a really good signal right now, so I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
So I want to respect your time, Gary. Basically, I'm not sure if you know this, but we stream this out on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. This is live, and we just want to give you an opportunity to share about yourself, why you're running, and what your key issues are. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Gary, and you take it away. Let us know who you are, why you decided to run, and then we'll have a little bit of Q&A after that. How's that?
Very cool. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. For those on Facebook Live, it's a great privilege to be down in Hawaii. Message. My name is Gary Cordery. I'm 62 years old. I've been married to my wife Kim. We have 2 adult daughters, Rachel and Erica, and we have 7 grandkids. Our kids and grandkids were all, and so these are the important things in life. This is what we hope for as a people, to share life with our family and legacy pieces. The reason I'm not a politician, we should just be clear about that at the beginning. I'm actually working here on Oahu, still paying the bills. Funny, those things haven't came to a close. So still working hard, still earning a living that way. And over the last few years, I've experienced issues with the government and their overreach into society. There's many perspectives of things that came apparently clear to me was that we had choices made by our government officials, non-essential. These were difficult choices, and many of the people suffered. So over that season, the COVID season, I think it resonates with everybody. But during that season, my wife and I and some others called the Aloha Freedom Coalition. That stand was for the liberty of the people, that people would hide the health and welfare of their bodies. And so that actually kind of got my stand in Hawaii started. Over the last couple of years, a couple of people began telling me, you should run. And I would dismiss it outright, literally, gave it no credence. But then real speak to me in prayer, and I realized that these conversations, these comments were actually a call. and to put my hand in the hat and then gain wisdom. Over the next days, I just got on the computer and I began to search what does the governor do. And in that research, the governor in Hawaii is the most powerful governor in the nation. People do not understand this, but it's true. The governor nominates nearly every position, directors and deputy directors, and at the end pieces over 10,000 people. This is incredible. But most importantly, having is the governor actually nominates the attorney general. He nominates the sheriff, the judges, left the Supreme Court, and they in turn actually select the ethics commission. The people of Hawaii have noticed that we struggle powerfully with corruption. The hopes and dreams of the people of Hawaii is corruption. The fact that we don't have equal justice, equal opportunity, litany, and we hear this from all the candidates. Cost of living, cost of housing, education. All of these issues are prominent issues in our society. Homelessness, lands, Hawaiian homes, all these components, they're all a part of the suffering equally. But to be able to solve these problems is we must have a government. This is what would be called righteous government. People who actually lead with humility, a willingness to actually listen to others, to embrace ideas, to be sifted, to look at other municipalities, states, and countries for leaders. Over here, the motorcycle in the back. I'm outside in Waianae. It's awesome. Watching the sunset. But I can ability to have honest leaders who actually understand that they're to serve the people, to provide ability with the taxes and the resources that come from the people, recognizing anything. The government actually consumes the wealth of people and reallocates it. So my stand in Hawaii, the way we'll govern in Hawaii, is we will select policy. To do that, we will actually bring transparency to government. We reveal the mysterious general fund and the disbursements of those funds. I think we all know that there's incredible ways. And if those things were back in the pocketbooks of the people and government actually supported people, dairy, produce, poultry, beef, we would bring high tech here, desalination here, and deal with the water shortage on the west side and Molokai and Maui. These are the kinds of long-range structural changes that the governor actually is responsible for. Governor, we will actually deal with policy. We won't continue to articulate the litany of problems. We'll actually look at the low-hanging fruit and we'll start there. And the burden on the people, lowering taxes and shrinking government. We're actually going to reduce the size of government. We're going to look at the fees and the regulations that are making it impossible to buy a home. There's a direct connection to all the struggles that I mentioned, but they're directly related to bad government policy, to stakeholders. You see corruption on both sides. You see it on pay to play, but you also see it constraint for the citizen to engage in the marketplace with his own entrepreneurial ideas, life down, and spend his time and his resources to make something happen. Because we're known as the state with the worst small business policies. We have the highest taxes the highest homeless population per capita in the nation. And although we spend we have the lowest or among the lowest proficiency tests in the nation in our education. You can hear, even as I'm saying, that inside of me, there's struggle coming up, and the struggle of the people. I just location we're at. It's almost like, being a contractor. I wasn't the type of contractor that worked in the field. I actually worked with men. I actually signed both sides of that. I worked with developers. I worked with the state, with law, with agency, workman's comp. These are the components of good decision to have a project come to fruition on time and in budget. This essentially is what government should be doing. Creating projects, targeted projects, using the people's targeted resources that no longer should there be special interests receiving special benefits, whether it's through DLNR, whether we're getting a seawall when nobody else can get a seawall, while some roads are paved and others are not, and get permits and others are stuck forever. We see it in the news. My question in my mind is, FBI, where's our own ethics department? These agencies that I mentioned, ethics department, sheriff, these must be elected by the people. Our governor, future governor, will lobby to take power away from his position and give it back to the people. People long for a governor who will actually just tell them the truth. And if we can come to grips with what's really going on, and we can actually begin to build and create policy that serves the people. This is no different than the struggle of TMT. Many people ask me, should we do TMT? The government should humble themselves and reconcile with the local people. We see that mountain is in a very different way than most people. Issues an executive order, having those folks arrested while they're executing rights. That ball's out of bounds. The government must account and humble itself and seek forgiveness. And when that's complete, but I'm just using that as an example. That same example happens across government with the people. I can tell you, many people think this is odd, but what would I do first? I would take my contractor friends and we're going to go down to the square house and we're going to take that wall down, the one that legislative building. That wall is a visual present. It is a wall of separation, and it represents all that's wrong with our government, access to our government. The people in Hawaii, they believe that they have access to they get the hand. Oh, well, I'm very concerned about that. I'll be getting back to you on that matter. We want to create access for the people, that they would come into the departments, Department of Health, DLNR, and numerous other departments. Imagine, and you're the part of the Longline Fishing Organization as an example, and your fishing fees that the buoys never get fixed or replaced. Why the wharves are in such poor shape? They have the ability to come into that department in DLNR and talk about that deputy director who's in charge of this, information from them that makes sense, that supports that industry. We do not have that as a people. You can take every aspect of our society and you can trace it to a decision made by a deputy director within these policies, whether it's in the health department, whether it's in a difficult one because some issues have been codified by law. But there will be many issues that we will hold and available to the governor to actually implement. And they will all serve the people. No longer shall the people be told what is right, have every right that their government should serve them. So, Mel, I'm not sure how much time I'm not interrupting me. So I don't know.
Well,
you got to jump in, Brock, because if we don't, I'm going to go for 5 hours.
Yeah, no, we're having some little audio issues. We're picking up about 95%. There's a little bit of skipping going on, and it's probably just because of the location. But no, we're getting the message. It's just there is a little bit of skipping and lag, but it's your message is coming across loud and clear. I did want to share my frustrations with the fact that office buildings are still closed. The legislature as well as the county councils only recently opened up their doors, and it was something we spoke about on this show for many months, when bars were open, everything was open, banks were open, but not your government offices, and that still holds true today in many cases. So I just wanted to share that frustration. But I'm trying to you talked about corruption. That's been
Yeah.
a huge topic lately, simply because of the legislators that got caught, the planning department
Yeah.
lady that got caught, the buildings or permitting person got caught. Uh, how are we going to stop this stuff? I hear a lot of talk
Yeah.
now
Right. That's right.
from the legislature saying we got to do something. But
It's hilarious. You know what the legislators say? Let's audit. You hear this all the time. Let's find out where that money went. And my question is this: how come there was no integrity in the process? What have doing overseeing a project like that? They have no skill set for that. And you know what, Mel, with the Aloha Stadium Authority, the governor just approved $400 million for phase one and use a government agency to oversee this project. So this is an invitation to corruption. So what I'm alluding to, Mel, in your question, I think it's a great question, is within the attorney people. You see, what we have now is you have the fox watching the chicken coop, watches the attorney general, who's appointed by the governor. Just think about the invitation there. It is not just momentary or once in a while. It is systemic, because those positions where there should be accountability and there should be aggressive prosecution if doesn't happen. And so some of the structural changes that we'll do going forward is make those people.
You mentioned the Stadium Authority. You mentioned the $400 million. You mentioned, I am probably, I won't say I'm the biggest football fan, and not UH football, just football in general. I love football. I love sports. But $400 million for phase one, that's I think the kicker. We saw what is happening in front of our eyes with rail. Now that's a city and county project. That's not a state project, but they look to the city, they look for the state for the bailouts. They've looked to other counties to help bail out a project that is just it will be, in my opinion, the worst capital improvements project in the country, in the history of this country. I believe so.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys support rail. They're my friends. I'm just telling you my opinion. When they started to take our money to support a project there, it pissed me off. Now you got the stadium and all these brilliant ideas. 400 million phase one. So if you become the governor, what happens? Do you like scrap the project, or?
So I can tell you the first thing.
There's a lot of UH fans that are but you I think you said it best. It invites the opportunity for the pay to play and the corruption when you allocate so much so quickly.
Yeah. Well, dollars allocated and spent for these design development, these conceptual pieces. As governor, spending for at least 3 months and probably 6 months in every agency. We're actually going to dial these folks in. We're going to bring in. We're going to find out what is being allocated. And I've spent a lot of times looking through the budgets of all these agencies, DLNR, department, and there is gross in the hundreds of millions of dollars of waste and unnecessary taxes, redundant regulations. We need to take a pause, right? I don't know everything, but we need to take a pause from issuing these big contracts before we're clear about what exactly we're getting. Idea that government oversees projects makes no sense. Many of these projects should be, whenever government builds anything, it's headed for disaster. And it'll be an albatross across people's necks forever. There will never be an end date because it's not free. It'll always be underwritten by the public. And when you go to the neighbor islands such that we have, they not only is the entire scheme flawed, but they're underwriting. So think of that.
The other thing you talk about, which is another big, huge item for our state, is Hawaiian homelands. We just got a settlement, agreed on a settlement, $600 million, but we have all these people on waiting lists. People are dying on the waiting list, and I mean, it's years and years and years of failure It is why we're here today. And it's frustrating, I think. And I'm not a Hawaiian; I have absolutely no Hawaiian blood in me. But I know so many people that or have been on that list for forever. I have also known people that have died on the list. So, well, how do you plan on dealing with Hawaiian homes? That's such low hanging fruit for our homeless and houseless population. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question, Mel. And really, and I said, why can't this ball ever move forward? Why can't there be any progress made for the people? You know, the governor has ever stood for the people. Because of stakeholders and corruption, people are handcuffed because they've made promises on both sides of the fence. Hawaiian Homes, and I can tell you the entire Department of Interior. I will lead the charge in that matter. And what is this 50% blood quantum? What is that? Why do we have that? That wasn't Prince 32nd. Many families are at that time, that time that have passed since its inception. That 50% is becoming rare, and the ability to pass 25%. This is actually disappearing as well. I homeland should be transferred to ownership pieces. They should own. It's their land. Why don't I? Can't. I've searched my mind and I've searched some records and information. Why they don't own their land? If they own the land, it would be legacy land. They wouldn't have to worry about the blood quantum. They would be able. They could build and they could develop at their own pace. That $600 that you mentioned, the criteria, that's going to be dispersed, and people are going to lose the rights to these leased lands. But also receive the $320 million settlement because the government doesn't actually disperse the funds that's received from private developers and allocate. This is another government corruption piece. So the people, and this is going to require the people in the Hawaiian community, the Kanakamo'oli, and the community, but it takes a governor to actually say, no, this must change, and bring ownership to state. Bring these people together who have the resources to underwrite such development and reason together. They all have the same declaration and vision to enhance the aina for the people of Hawaii. Then let's get them all on the same page. Let's get them, and let these organizations that make that declaration, let them help underwrite the developments that will serve the people. It will resolve so many issues, and the state has no motivation. They collect federal money. This is why it's sustained the way it is. There's a great deal of hope, and this should happen in ag property. This should happen in lease one property is land, because the state leases the land. The people should own the land. The state should get out of managing the resources that belong to the people. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, you talk about the agricultural component. Our state constitution is so strong as it relates to the preservation of ag, and the counties, the county charters, and in all the different counties. They put out the impression that the state and the counties are really trying to preserve agriculture in our state, and yet the actions may not always match the words.
Right.
Farmers are struggling right now, and yet when you look at Hawaii, I don't care what island you live on, we have the sunshine, we have the water, we have the land, we have everything that you need to be sustainable, but it's not happening. It's like farmers are struggling. They get no aid. They're paying too much money for water. It's county issues, but I just kind of want to hear your perspective on agriculture in our state, sustainability in our state, and maybe we should start focusing more on trying to create our own independence as far as food security and food sustainability. So just curious, your thoughts.
Yeah. Thank you, Mel. This issue of sustainability in Hawaii and policy, I mentioned this earlier, the policymakers in DLNR and DOH actually are controlling it is much easier for the government to get revenue from the tourists. Have the why you don't have the investment in local farming. I remember medical, dairy, poultry, beef, produce, part of our communities. These should happen again. The state through DLNR is actually off the farm. This through lease projects. This by giving the farmer a lease, that very lease that he's given his treasure to is put up for public auction. A trucker outbids him and he loses everything. It is within the governor's purview to create lands and to enhance markets for local farm back. The resources that we're spending to promote tourism should be redirected. They should be in and opportunities to support the local farmers until they're a viable, profitable market. You're right. They scratch just to get by. Why? Fees and regulations. Department of Health. You can't bring your product to the marketplace. The marketplace is restricted. All of these are bad policy. The idea that this is just the farmers aren't good sources. Water is an issue, but I can tell you the rest of them are a result of bad policy. And finally, it can remain viable and profitable. We need to actually have a goods and services ferry. Think of it, set up to support local industry. So somebody in Kahuku can move their product to others. Then you actually have a viable market, ground, and the assistance of the government. You create enhanced for the product to be sold, markets, and then you provide transportation, move their products to and from, back and forth, and you've developed once again. You can start to glean off of the tourism piece, and this is what we need to do. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think the state subsidies to farmers far outweigh the benefits, far outweigh the cost. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure that one out, right? If you create an environment that farmers can farm and get their products to market, it is better for the state long term. You hit it on the head when you said the easy revenue source of tourism, right? Low impact, low cost, right? Really, we talked about this on the show a few weeks ago. We don't need to market Hawaii. We don't. You know, Vegas doesn't market Vegas in Hawaii. You don't have to, because people know it's there, and the airlines do a great job promoting Hawaii with their low airfares. And yet we continue to dump millions and millions and millions of dollars. What is your position on tourism and the cost or the expense that the budget that we provide to promote this state while our farmers, our ranchers, our residents are struggling to survive?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that the addiction to tourism for the dream that brings to the state must be severed. I mean, I remember back pre-COVID, we were at 10 tourists. It was unbearable on Oahu. You couldn't park in front of your house. How many tourists is enough? That's the over 6 million. Is that? I think that's enough. How do you actually slow tourism? We just need to stop promoting. It is a tourism destination in and of itself. So we resources and like I said a moment ago, we should invest them in other areas or people. How come the hotels and the hotel industry, how come they don't pro tourism promotion? Why is it the Department of Tourism that does that? These don't make sense. These are people of Hawaii pay for, not just pay for out of their pockets, but they pay for it socially. Strain on our system through water, sewer, all of the reefs, all of these, a risk and a reward in all of these conversations. So, I think that budget dedicated to support local families, and in particular, we must wean off of tourism, is to enhance the ag market, and also we should bring high tech here. Why? From a global time zone perspective, we're exactly positioned between the U.S. mainland and Asia. Think about that. That is the ideal scenario for high tech a large industry, so that when our kids go to school here and they don't want to work on the farm, they can actually get a high-paying job in Hawaii. Rather, I don't know about you, Mel, but my kids, they had to leave with two daughters, our grandkids, and now we have a shrinking population. Hawaii shrinking population. Why? It's too much burden to live here. Too many taxes, too many fees, too many regulations. This is bad political. And so when I started, my declaration, our declaration to run for governor is for honesty and integrity, accountability and transparency. Get out of the way. Let the free entrepreneurship of a citizen enhance that in every aspect of our economy, and we'll see change. And then to the redirection of these policymakers, the nomination of policymakers have deputy directors who in turn create policy for the people to in abundance rather than suffer and live in scarcity. So I'm rambling, but thank you.
No, not rambling. I know it's like an hour show. I want to try to provide as much information out to the viewers that will be watching this for the next couple of weeks. We talk about, they're talking about managing tourism versus promoting, and they have these different destination management plans.
Yeah.
But what I would really like to see is, and I've said this for a while, is what is the carrying capacity of this state, of each county? How many visitors can we efficiently, effectively, and safely accommodate without taking away the lifestyle and the culture from our residents, who should be primary in all policies? But and I hear them talk about this carrying capacity study, but what is that number? I mean, is it 6 million for the state? I know for Hawaii there is way too many daily arrivals for our infrastructure, and I'm not talking about available hotel rooms or available. I'm talking about roads. I'm talking about restrooms at the public facilities. I'm talking about toilet paper. That's what I'm talking about, is when my wife goes to the store. And by the way, my two kids are living in Oregon today. They had to move. So I have two kids, they're adults, they live in Oregon. But on Saturdays, when my wife goes to the store with her mother, her 86-year-old mom, once a week they shop, shelves are empty. Hey, we have too many people on our island. We have a population of about 75,000 with a average daily tourist count of about 25,000. So just figure about 100,000 people on Kauai. We don't have the infrastructure, can't handle it. But what is that number, and is the state willing to determine that number and adjust? Because it's definitely going to impact the revenue from tourism.
Yeah, good question, and it's a difficult question to answer. How to discern what is too much. I think you need to have equal growth and the ability for infrastructure to manage the growth, and not so much obviously on Kauai, but certainly on Molokai and Maui and on the west side of Oahu. The government hasn't thought about that and did desalinization. There's 20,000 desalinization. Why we don't have scalable water so that we can have the basic necessities for clean water, which the sewer and the treatment plants, because they're operating on limited water. I think during these number of people, particularly on Kauai, where the reefs were coming back to life, and they were sewers weren't being flushed out in the reefs. All these components, all the treatment plant improvements, so that they can manage the waste, the ability for local to grow its own foods. That will deal with the food on the shelf issues, chain issues. We have national problems. We have these supply issues that are coming from the feds in Washington, D.C. They allocate and borrow trillions of dollars, and then they fail.
And so there has to be thoughtful strategies with the people. And over the last couple, over the last seasons, what we've seen is even Honolulu are slowly empowering the counties to make their own policies. Now, this may make sense, but they don't. What they're not taking into consideration is there's no consistency between the islands. Your question: what is the right number for people on Kauai? What about Maui? What is that? Establishing different criteria for what is acceptable. This makes a good policy. But essentially, I would say that if you have 30% growth industry over a 10-year frame, then you need a 30% growth and the ability to manage it. So that means more water, more sewer, more infrastructure, and then a maintenance program that has a budget. Is the allocation of funds that comes from the general fund? They're not targeted to do this as well as most. So we just had $3 billion of leftover resources. Where does that money go? And if we have $3 billion, how come we're not paying down debt or fixing infrastructure? The governor issues us $300 each. Like, we're supposed to feel good about that. Fantastic. I can fill up my car 3 times. That should make me feel better. This is governance. No accountability for the resources. Therefore, if you don't have any way to money is being allocated, how do you plan and fund the expansion necessary to or more growth? It's not just tourism growth. We have population growth. So it's taking the ideas of the state actually making more land available for development. One of the issues is there's no water, there's no sewer, there's no power. How does that work? How does a governor select a cabinet that doesn't think more than one than why isn't the governor thinking strategically, like 5, 10, 15 consideration? This is good governance. This is what you need. This is one of the reasons why politics, they don't understand these dynamics. They actually function from, they hope to appease the people and get reelected while kicking the can with policy infrastructure projects that you're talking about. How to discern how much is too much? Honestly, that's a very difficult question. I think I don't know how to do that, Mel. To honestly, I do not know how to do that.
Yeah, it wasn't a question of how it's done. I'm just suggesting that concept, and you're absolutely right. The carrying capacity for each county is different. Absolutely. A county or an island like Molokai obviously you cannot base it on a percentage of population it's right. Depending on the resources, both natural and infrastructure resources we have on each island. So yeah, it's not simple, but when we talk about infrastructure, we are so busy putting out fires and repairing broken infrastructure, right? That's where the money gets tied up in. The money gets tied up because we haven't been doing a good enough job with the maintenance because we like you said, right? It's all about getting reelected and not looking far enough down the road and figure out if we are going to, let's just take a water pipe, right? We can constantly send the water guys out and go fix the broken water pipe on overtime, or we can invest the money and replace the pipe. Is it going to cost more today? Absolutely. But in the long run, it is much cheaper if we fix the pipe than have to worry about, continuing to, replace the pipe rather than continuing to have to repair a pipe. And that's just a very simple analogy of what governments do. We're spending our resources fixing the stuff that we are allowed to break. And I think that is the mentality.
Well, yeah, Mel, you're absolutely right. I mean, even that same protocol, that same way of relating to maintenance and to serving the people, that's what government does. This is what's wrong. We were just on Kauai last week.
You know, the hotel that got smashed by Aniki. How long ago was that? How come there hasn't been any movement at the county level available for homeless or for care facility or something that it just sits there and go? We have the Poly Highway. I'm sure you've been here.
Mm-hmm.
The Poly Highway is kind of like the Golden Gate Bridge. At one end, they tear it up, they put utilities in, they go over the hill to the windward side, and then they come back. And honestly, some of these projects are done immediately by another. So let's say you're putting in a water main. They put the turn around as soon as it's paid. They turn around, they saw cut it, and in comes a sewer line. Kind of bad planning. This dislocated, poor planning by government represents bad. This represents people making decisions in policymakers who do not know what they're doing. Do not know what they're doing when it comes to policy. They only allocate funds. So I'm going to keep beating policymakers who understand what it means to actually put a road. In Louisiana, read this. In Louisiana, it costs $4,700 to administrate. On Oahu, it takes $84,000 to a mile. Now I'm having a hard time with that.
Gary, you broke up right where you said in Louisiana it costs $4,700 per mile
to administer the contracting piece from the state. $4,700 a mile to administrate the project. Okay. Oahu, $84,000. Now I want you to think of that's an incredible amount of corruption and wasteful spending. And I know what it takes to administrate a contract. I know.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Ridiculous numbers. Yeah. These kinds of numbers go across the board. When you start digging into the administrative finance pieces of these organizations, you'll be in shock. And it's all online. You just go to one of the departments. You take your pick, and you start by line. And when you're reading, you just look at the link. Have you ever looked at a public document from all this, super fine print? But in the middle of the sentence, there's a link. Hey, what is this link? It's the information they don't want you to know. You click the link, and you start following the why, because they have to make this information available, but they don't have to print it. They just have to. When you start looking at the links, you will be over. I can tell you, there is more than enough to maintain the infrastructure in Hawaii, management of the resources. And I think when we get a handle on that, when we make these decisions, you can begin to change the very nature. There will be abundance rather than our families leaving, rather than the people leaving. And the people leaving, just think about this in Hawaii.
Yeah.
These are the people who work and pay taxes. An ever-growing government. You have a shrinking tax base. Guess what's around the corner? Higher taxes. The cyclical problem of the consumption of the wealth taken from a smaller tax base. It's inevitable. It's simple mathematics. So we need to make changes that address the structural problem.
Well, Gary, you introduced yourself. You gave us your reasons for running. You talked about a few of your major issues. I want to give you an opportunity because we got about 15 minutes left, but I want to give you an opportunity I'm going to turn it over to you and explain to our viewers why they should consider you as our next governor. And this is your chance, man. Unscripted, unrehearsed, unedited. Go for it.
Okay. I'll wrap it up at 8:30 then, I'm assuming. Okay. So, Mel, thank you. Those Facebook viewers, and I'm assuming this will be recorded as well and be a resource. Just say to the people of Hawaii, I'm a husband. I'm a family man, the King of Heaven. I believe that I'm answerable
not only to you, but I'm answerable to him. At the end of the day, when I look in the mirror, I want to know whether I did all that I could do that day, the best that I could do. It doesn't matter if I'm sweeping a street, digging a trench, or being the governor. There's a heart that determines a man's steps. And you're right. I don't need a notepad. What I'm sharing with you lives in me because it's the truth. That the people of Hawaii would have their government. They would trust their government again. A republic will not function unless those citizens in that republic trust. As soon as they lose trust in their government, they'll restrain themselves from the very government they long for. I think we all experience that in Hawaii. Voter turnout in the nation. Think of it. More than 50% of our people. I ask them all the time, are you voting? Their answer, why would I? My vote doesn't matter. Nobody's listening to me. This is a tragedy because the very citizens, the kids, even the kapuna in our neighborhood, the fact that they're losing their homes because of property. I met with a 95-year-old man yesterday. He's lived in his home. His neighbors bought their house for $2.25 million, and his other neighbor $3 million. He's going to have to lose his property because of property taxes. These are basic principles. For an owner-occupant should be frozen at the time of retirement. No their properties, their legacy, that which they wish to long to pass on to their kids, should that be taken? We should reduce taxes. We should eliminate taxes. Fight the on GET, on medicine, and on food. It should just be gone. This is a regressive tax. It's applied. It should be eliminated off of food and taxes. And think of the healthcare industry. When we were on Molokai, I sat with a lady in Molokai. Her greatest fear, it wasn't that she wouldn't have a place to live. Her greatest fear is that she was going to get sick because there's no medical facilities on Molokai. When she gets sick, she has no and go to Maui. And if it's serious, go to Honolulu. Why are we 1,000, 1,200 doctors short? Why is the family practitioner becoming scarce in Hawaii? This is bad policy. The Department of Health applies GE taxes to the family practitioner while it offers hospitals, Queens, Pacific Health. They get nonprofit status. They don't have to pay this 4.712. I talk to doctors. It's 5% is the tipping point. They cannot make money. Everybody thinks doctors make a ton of money. They don't necessarily make a ton of money. Many are leaving Hawaii because it's not profitable. It's sustainable unless it's profitable. So when you look at all of these, healthcare, education is a whole other ball of wax. No P and PTA. I believe people were duped in 70 and gave the authority for curriculum to the Department of Education. Now, we have national stakeholders, national administrative groups bringing SEL policies to education to our keiki, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Same time, my friend who teaches 8th grade in urban Honolulu, he goes to his administrator and he said, my student can only read at the 3rd grade. The administrator tells him, you shall pass him through. You want part of the resources to come from the tourism tax? We should support our kids. Highest per capita. Why? Why do we have homeless like this? But basically, the underlying problem is the Department of Health sees homeless as a problem. They don't see the individual. Recognize nor assess that some people have had a bad luck. There's been a death in the family. Somebody Maybe there was a divorce. And before they know it, the mom and a couple of kids are on the street. These folks need assistance to get them back, get their lives working again. Others, they need professional help, mental illness. My friend does this in the mainland. Percent of the people on the street in Northern California have schizophrenia, pill, and their lives all of a sudden are working and functioning again. But in Hawaii, we just scrub them and move them from block to block and throw money at it. There's other people here who fly here from the mainland with a list of services. Our attorney general needs to, you got to go home. These other attorney generals in other states that are doing these practices, this is not right. They need to go home. They need to be with their families. Folks that want to live on the street, they do. They just get services and they want to live on the street. They don't work. They're capable of working. These folks, there needs to be an end date on their services. They need to go back to work. So I think when I'm telling things that I'm describing, they represent a practical solutions. So government just sit back and kick the can down the road, presenting going to do. Every politician, you see it, turn after turn, election cycle after election, platitude of problems with Hawaii. But you never see anybody say this is the solution. You hear things like, "Oh, this is dear to my heart," or "This really concerns me." I mean, it's not enough. The people of Hawaii deserve more than somebody who will stand. Many of these policies that I'm describing, they never have a governor to say, "You know what? We've had enough." It is time that we would stand together, that we would share in the love and the grace, in the aloha spirit of Hawaii, that our ohana would be once again cherished, that we would actually declare the goodness of God in our society. What a concept. Life. This is what we long for from a people. We long for liberty. And this word liberty, I think of those who signed the 56 men from those colonies who were in the same struggle. They were being tyrannized by a foreign government. Were tyrannized by. They had men from across the ocean telling them what they live, how much fees and taxes they'd have to pay on the hard-earned work that they've put in over the time, not the generations, over time. They served of independence, that they would be a free man, free women. They knew that and they did. Many of them gave their lives. But they did it so that people, the ability to choose, the ability to chase dreams, exercise their self-government, to do what's right for their neighbor. The option to have government do it. There's two basic principles. Believes we should tax and spend our way into prosperity. That's socialism is called. The problem with socialism is pretty soon you run out of somebody else's money. This is not what we long for. Because this leads to the dumbing down of a society. It becomes dependent on its government. An entitled society, and blame somebody else. This is not the beauty and passion of humanity. And we want government to support freedom, liberty, that people could do and will of their good pleasure. With regard to paying taxes to support the infrastructure, of course we should. Take more than is required. Should they mismanage these funds? Should not. Will anybody rein them in? We will embark on a Titanic, bringing transparency to the system and not only will we reveal, we will for the first time in Hawaii reveal those who are spending these resources, decisions about where this money actually goes, why bills come up through the legislature. They've been given a number and a title, and after approved by both the House and the Senate, back room, and amendments are added, and maybe the bill went in, but after the amendments are added and all the goodies added on, the bill comes out of conference, and all of a sudden it's 620 million. No say in this. In fact, you will never know about it. You have to be very disciplined to understand exactly what's going on. And what I'm saying to you is, as governor, we will begin to, so that the people will know. The people have the right to know. This is their. So Mel, I'm very grateful for this time on the phone with you. Seems like a phone call. It's very odd, actually. Nevertheless, the fact that I look forward when we come back to Kauai in the general. We should hook up and have a cup of coffee. I think it would serve
absolutely.
us as citizens, and I hope I've spoke clear enough to understand that voting for Gary Cordery for governor will transform our communities to a centric community. This is a big, huge miss that individual state with equal representation and have equal justice and have equal distribution of resources. And that's not what I'm about. So, Mel,
thank you for joining us. I know the audio had a little bit of glitchy, but we could get the message. I think you heard loud and clear what Gary's message is, and on the screen, GaryCordery4Governor.com. Go check it out. I'm sure there's some links on there to contact him and pose him additional questions if you have them. Again,
right.
We put the call out. Anyone running for office wants to come in and share your story and your reasons for running in your platform. You're welcome to come on and spend an hour with us. And I believe informing and educating the public is key. Again, like I said, I think you might have been in the green room, Gary, when I said we are at crossroads. This state, we are at crossroads, and we, as the people, have the opportunity to change our future, but we got to get out to vote. So if you haven't registered, go out and register. And if you are registered, make sure you vote on August 13th is the primary election. And that's what it's going to take. So
that's right.
Thank you, Gary. Again, appreciate you jumping on. And for our villagers out here, we'll see you guys on Monday. Again, no show the rest of the week. I'll be on Oahu taking care of some business, and we'll be back on Monday night with Ikaika Anderson, Lieutenant Governor candidate. So with that, you guys take care. God bless. We love you guys. We'll see you guys soon. Aloha.
Thank you, Mel.